of the day today, dog. Offense, great drive.
Go!
He's up. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Training Camp Live, presented by Honda.
Welcome to Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen, Quincy Anunwo here at One Jets Drive. The Jets back on the field after a day off, their first break of training camp, and the pads are on. So is this like the unofficial start of training camp? It has to be in my book. Quincy?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. This is where the bullets really start flying.
All right, so what I'd say is I'll echo something that Robert Saleh said the other day, that he's been very happy, pleased with the competition level. He doesn't want to see that change, but he talked about, hey, we got rules at home with the family as far as fighting and skirmishes are concerned. Nothing above the neck, nothing below the waist out here today with the pads. Let's see that continue.
I think that's good rules. And also, you could tell that the first couple of practices definitely chippy. With pads come on, though, Quincy, obviously there's a lot of differences in terms of the temperatures that are flaring. First of all, it is hotter today than it's been all throughout.
It's going to be hot all week.
Yeah, it's going to be pushing 90, mid-90s. And here's the thing. When you're talking about the first time you get a look at O-line, D-line, those guys really thudding, when you're practicing, Quincy, what changes in terms of the intensity of any given practice?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the heat is a huge factor. Pads are a huge factor as well. I mean, this is the perfect incubator for an irritable player, right? You're in training camp, you don't get to see your family. Then you come out here, it's really hot. You're going against somebody that's trying to make the team, so they're going harder than you. You got to go hard, and at sometimes that just creates fights. And, you know, you're going to see that in training camp.
Well, one thing we were talking about the other day is oftentimes you see that stuff in the trenches where you don't see that outside in the perimeter with the receivers and the cornerbacks, right?
Yeah. We call it brother-in-law on the outside, man. You know, we have an agreement when we go out there. Hey, listen, man, I'm not trying to make too much happen right now. You know, let me just pat you up, and then we get points for this play.
I love it.
So with the, you know, it's funny you said that, though, because, like, when we were looking at a skirmish, Garrett Wilson was like, you know what, like, they're going to do their thing, and it really was the offensive linemen. But when pads come on, there's a lot of different things that go around. Like, if you're me, for example, I'm looking at O-line, D-line. Quincy, for you, what do you pay attention to in terms of when the pads actually do come on?
Yeah, so, I mean, yes, the receivers and the DBs tend to do a little bit of pit-pat, but sometimes you got to get a little physical, especially with the safeties. You know, safeties are going to be coming down a lot harder. They want to make plays. They know they have an opportunity to make a play. So as a receiver on the outside, you got to really get in there. I want to see who's getting physical.
Okay, what are your early impressions, though, Camp? You've been out here the first couple days, taking in the sights and the sounds. You've been going to the podium as well, but what have you thought about the Jets' work here early?
I mean, outside of the Jets' work, let's talk about what the Jets have set up. This double-decker stadium
the bleachers,
setup they have, bleachers, man, I mean, the Jets really, I think they're putting it all in on the outside, and they're putting it all in on the inside as well. I mean, the guys are coming out to play. I love to watch the receivers work. You know, that's where I'm watching every time. But even in the interior, guys are getting physical, so I'm excited to see how that looks today with pads.
What have been your early impressions of the red zone period when you've been out at practice? Because when EA and I were at practice on Sunday, the defense was getting the best of the offense early, and the message throughout the offseason from Robert Saleh to his team has been finish. And the offense, after starting practice a little slow, they finished in the red zone, which is an encouraging sign, no doubt. But what does that say about where the offense is right now, that maybe you start slow but you finish strong?
Well, I don't like to make too much of a guess on where the offense is just because it's so early in training camp. But I love to see what they're doing, right? You're seeing Garrett Wilson making amazing circus catches in the back of the end zone. You got Mecole Hardman making catches as well in the back. So, I mean, you got a bunch of guys really going out there and competing, and that's what you really want to focus on, is that guys are constantly competing, making plays, you know, because you're going to want to see those during the season.
All right, so why does Rodgers make it look so easy there in the red zone? Because the field is condensed, but oftentimes we've been watching here early, and he's making it look like he's working with the CFL end zone where it's expanded.
I know, but you got to think about it. A guy that has that much experience, he's able to see the field so much quicker. So when it's a condensed field, maybe a younger quarterback might think a little bit slower and not be able to make those passes. But with Aaron Rodgers, it's so easy for him. He knows immediately where to go.
All right, well, listen, first day of pads out here, One Jets Drive. It is the 5th practice for the green and white. I got to ask you, big announcement here from the Jets yesterday. the throwback uniforms, taking us back to the Sack Exchange era. Q, what did you think?
Oh, I love them. I wish I could have had a chance to wear them. I mean, the helmet decal is one of my favorite decals the Jets have worn. Then the jersey is simple, it's sleek. I mean, you know, I know the players love it because I love it as well.
What do you think of them, EA? I love them.
Clean. That's
Yeah.
my first thought. And the Jets are going to be wearing those opening night against the Buffalo Bills. And then week 4 with that clash between the Jets and the Chiefs, maybe the first time we see Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes play against each other. And then, remember, the Jets are going to bring out the All Blacks on Black Friday when the Jets host the Miami Dolphins.
I kind of love that the Jets are wearing the legacy uniforms week 1, but also I feel like I go back and forth because, like, I want to see him throughout the course of the year. Obviously, you can only wear your alternate jerseys, 3 total times? And now the Jets have 2 alternate
combination
jerseys.
of the throwback, yep.
So the one which has been the new alternate jersey for the past couple of years has been the Stealth Black. Now you add in the Legacy, so there will be 2 Legacies, then 1 Stealth Black. And here's the thing. For the Jets and Chiefs game, I'm glad you mentioned it, could be the first Rodgers-Mahomes showdown. The Packers and Chiefs have played when they've been on the teams. It's just that it was Jordan Love who played in one game, then Patrick Mahomes didn't play in the other game. So it's been a back and forth. And right now for the Jets team, though, when Aaron Rodgers has been out here, Q, we talk about Aaron Rodgers every show, rightfully so.
Right.
What have been your early takeaways being at Jets camp, watching him operate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say this every time. I love the way he carries himself on the field. You know, he's really a field general, a guy that's calm, a calm presence in the huddle. I mean, it's going to be the same thing I repeat every time because I continue to see that. And that's encouraging, right? Because you're going to have a bunch of guys that don't know this offense. So if you got a guy that's calm and willing to tell you exactly what it needs to be done in a way that you can understand it, that's helpful.
How about Garrett Wilson, man? I mean,
carrying on what he did last year. I mean, he's my favorite receiver in NFL right now.
Is he?
Favorite young receiver, right? I got some older guys that
Who
I
else
enjoy
is in
watching. I love Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is one of my favorite guys to watch. I mean, he's a technician, and I mean, he played with Aaron Rodgers, so you see, you know, the guy knows what he's doing.
Garrett, what do you like most about him? I mean, he put up the numbers last year, and everybody talks about him yards after the catch.
Yeah.
The ability at the top of routes. What do you like best?
I mean, he is a technician. I'm going to say this every time. The Ohio State receivers, when they come out, they really know exactly how to kind of work with leverage. They know exactly how to get up in and out of their breaks quickly. You know, it's things that guys don't really know coming out of college that they know immediately. And Garrett Wilson is one of those guys that just goes out there and he looks like a veteran already.
It's crazy to think about just last year's draft class. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jamison Williams, technically drafted out of Alabama, but he was in that wide receiver room with Garrett, with Olave. Then you think about Marvin Harrison, Jackson Smith, and Jigba got drafted this past year in the first round.
Yeah.
Wide receiver you in Columbus, Ohio, Quincy?
I think you have to crown them as that.
So right now taking a look at the warm-ups here as the Jets prepare for their first padded practice in training camp, their 5th practice overall, number 8, Aaron Rodgers right there on the left side of the screen. It's easy to find him every time because of the red jersey, which is great.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, quietly, I think Zach Wilson has had a nice start to camp. And Q, you would echo that. What have you seen from Zach, and what are you hoping for from a Jets fan's perspective? Obviously, Rodgers is the guy right now, but as far as his development, how important this summer is when he's getting these reps?
Well, one thing I'll say is that I feel like he's definitely been able to play without the pressure. And that's one thing that as a first-round draft pick, I can only imagine the pressure you have on your back. So now he knows he doesn't have to go out there and make every play. And I think that's kind of some of the issues he was having last year, is trying to press and make plays that he didn't need to make. Now he can go out there, play within the system, and you're really watching him absorb things from Aaron Rodgers.
The guy's stretching right now, and there's Mekhi Becton.
That's the guy who I want to see with Pat.
And one of the plays that I really liked the other day, I don't know if it was Saturday or Sunday out there at practice, because the days start all coming together right now, but it was a screen play. Running back took the ball down the field, and he was finishing down the field, Mekhi Becton, 20 yards, and his offensive line coach, Keith Carter, he was down the field giving him a high five.
Yeah, I think that obviously it's been well documented, the weight loss, but when you see Mekhi Becton running down the field, first of all, he's a freight train. Second of all, if he's 20, 30 yards, that was about what it was on Saturday or Sunday, downfield with a full head of steam, if you're a corner and you see that guy coming at you, I mean,
Scary.
kudos to you if you actually try to
Yeah.
absorb the block there. But
I'm taking an angle to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And see if I can make a tackle.
And good usage of words, absorb, because you're not going head to head with them, you know.
And look, this is classic Connor McGovern on the left with the crop top, the McGovern top right
yeah.
there.
That's cool.
Look, we talk about the offensive line a lot. I think that a lot of fans are going to be excited for one-on-ones when they happen. But I've also heard that like one-on-ones kind of not a great litmus test of, okay, you're agreeing with that. Why is that?
So it's one-on-ones with offensive linemen, one-on-ones with receivers. There's always somebody that's going to have an advantage. You know, it's never completely just like the game, but it's fun. It's fun. At the end of the day, it's mano y mano, you know, good on good. And, you know, we like to compete, but we always know that there's a little bit of an advantage on the other side.
Okay, how about the Wilson-Sauce Gardner matchup that we see throughout the summer?
Yeah, that's going to be, I mean, I'm going to watch every single rep that they have together because they should be competing. I mean, just the other day they had those reps on the left sideline. You know, they had the slant, the go.
Right.
You know, it's cool to watch those guys.
And you were the first guy to point out that, okay, Sauce makes a great PD down the field as Rodgers was trying to dial up long distance to Wilson. Very next play, the savvy Rodgers comes back.
Yep.
Quick count,
Quick,
right?
yep.
And then Wilson's exploding over the middle with the yak.
You got to be ready. I mean, that's one of the things that Aaron Rodgers does, and it's cool to see him do it in practice.
Yep.
Quincy, we appreciate your time here
Always.
on Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. We'll be seeing you throughout, so make sure to find some shade out there.
Yeah.
And I hope that you take in practice today, and we'll see you when we're going to see you next. We'll
Sometime
see.
later
Okay.
next week.
Yeah,
That's great.
definitely.
You guys part of the
TEA's
crew.
point,
You got to see
Quincy, I know
the
it's part
calendar.
of
all the days run together at this point. We're only like not even a week in because the Jets reported last Wednesday. All the days are running together as the Jets are
Coming
breaking.
together.
Yeah, as the Jets are coming together. Exactly. Well done. So here's the thing. The pads are coming on. And for more on a player who's been performing well without the pads and not much to be expected of change when the pads come on, let's head down to the field with Caroline Hendershot.
You know, Ethan, he has been, I feel like, the talk of training camp so far. Jermaine Johnson. Coach Saleh was speaking about him earlier this week, and he said he looks massive in a good way. He came back this year bigger, stronger, and he has a really good competitive mindset that Coach Saleh likes. Even Quinnen Williams mentioned Jermaine put in the work this offseason. He came back bigger, stronger, faster, and he thinks that he is going to have a breakout season because of all the work he put in this offseason. When I talked to Jermaine about those expectations and all those kind words that everybody said about him, he said this year he just wants to put in the work every single day, and he just doesn't want to let his teammates down. So I think it's setting him up for a breakout season, but we'll just have to stay tuned and see what the season holds for him.
Awesome, Caroline. Obviously talking about Jermaine Johnson. EA, what do you think about the way that he's practiced throughout the early portions of camp, which are an extension of the third off-season phase? Basically means that it's shirts and T-shirts, or T-shirts and shorts.
Well, I always like what the other guys have to say about him. And, you know, number one, Quinnen Williams talking about him on report day, and then Robert Saleh said the guy has completely transformed his body, just like Caroline just articulated. So I think for him coming out, C.J. Uzama way in the background there wearing number 87. Perhaps he's practicing today. That would be a first. And he started camp on the PUP list of greens.
Yeah, so C.J. Uzama, I think that is him, 87 in the top right of your screen.
Yep.
And when you're on the actively physically unable to perform list, that just means that you can be activated
Any
anytime.
day.
You're already a part of the
Right.
90-man roster. And in there, Jermaine Johnson, number 11, we've been obviously focusing on him. With Johnson, what do you expect, if anything, to change when he practices with pads on? Because remember, this is a guy at Florida State who had 12 in one season with the Seminoles. He had 12 sacks, 18 and a half tackles for loss before he was drafted and became a part of that rotation last year.
I think him and Michael Clemens goes under the radar as far as their contributions in their rookie seasons. You take Jermaine in the first round, Michael Clemens comes back in the fourth round. Those guys, when you put their stats together, they were up there with a bunch of rookies. Jermaine Johnson, listen, the Jets, I've said this multiple times, embarrassment of riches is the defensive end position because we're talking about 2 rookies last year. You got Bryce Hoff, you got Carl Lawson coming back his second year off of the Achilles. You got John Franklin Myers. I mean, the Jets expect big things from Jermaine Johnson. That is clear, and I think that we're going to see a different player this summer. I keep on coming back to last year, the game against the Buffalo Bills, perhaps the high point of the New York Jets season of 2022, and Josh Allen outside the pocket. Jermaine Johnson showcased his lateral quickness because most guys are going to lose that battle when Josh Allen is out there in the open field, but he came up with a huge sack that changed the tenor of that game.
And the game at Buffalo, he had the block punt, which resulted in the safety there. So Jermaine Johnson, new body, new number. Something else that's new is one of the guys that's playing on the inside with him. That's Al Woods, who is a big, big human being, number 96. And I thought it was very interesting to hear him talk to the media the other day. He just seems like a real down-to-earth, cool person. This is one of, I think, going to be a very interesting – I think it was a great signing. That's what I'm trying to get at.
You might see these guys. This might be the look if the Bills come out opening night, 2 tight ends, and it's a run formation. You might see these guys next to each other. Of course, Quentin Williams is going to be in the game. We know that.
Absolutely.
But Al Woods might be the guy flanking him. And, again, this is a reversal for the Jets because most of the time on the inside they're looking for maybe guys who are a little bit smaller. So they bring in a guy as big as a house, and Al Woods. And at 36 years old, he's in very good shape. You mentioned the other day him 40 yards down the field trying to get his hands on Michael Carter. But he can really help this team in terms of, okay, he's playing in a 4-3 now. Last year, occupying blockers and freeing up space in Seattle as they move to a 3-4. So he's pumped about the opportunity to get up the field and wreak some havoc on opposing quarterbacks. And Jeff Albrecht said, hey, maybe being in the system, it's going to free him up to do different things. And that's why I think Al Woods is here. Plus, he's an opportunity to play on a potential playoff team and a team that's got a chance to make a run here.
Look, the Jets lost a couple guys in free agency at the defensive tackle position. Then Joe Douglas reloads with that guy, Al Woods, Quentin Jefferson in the mix, re-signing Solomon Thomas, the guys they lost, Sheldon Rankins, now a Houston Texan, Nathan Shepard, now a New Orleans Saint. And Jets football is almost here, and it's time to lock in your season tickets. Be at MetLife Stadium for the biggest games of the year when the Jets host the Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, Chargers, and more. Secure your seats now at nyjets.com. Now it's time for a very special guest here on Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. I'm Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen, Brian Baldinger in the house in Florham Park. Baldy, what's up?
Well, I feel like summer's over. You know, it's football season has begun. I'm up here. I'm at practice. It just feels good to see guys running around in uniforms now. Actually hear some pads popping. It's a good sign. It's a good time of the year.
Couldn't you make the argument, though, that the summer's actually beginning now?
Well, I mean, I feel summer heat.
Yeah.
You know, but we're not at the shore. You know, it's not a vacation. It's time to get to work.
Looking good in green, Baldy.
Yes, I feel like it's the hot color this summer.
Okay, so after you were swimming with the Sharks throughout the summer, now we're going to see the guys swimming in the Sharks in the trenches today. The pads coming on, so Baldy makes his arrival at One Jets Drive. You
know, it's interesting. I was fishing the other day off the coast of Fort Lauderdale, and I caught like a pretty big-sized barracuda. And, you know, I took it, and I was just looking at the teeth of the barracuda, and I couldn't help but think, could this be like the symbol for the Jets' defensive line? Just a bunch of angry barracudas getting after quarterbacks this year. That's the first thing I thought of.
I have no idea where you're going with that, and I never do, but I love it every time you land the plane.
I was trying it together, Ethan.
He always does.
Okay, right now we're taking a look at Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Baldy, pads on. Like, what are you looking for? Because this is your first day here. When you see this Jets team today in a couple minutes, what are you looking for from that guy on the screen, number 8, and what are you looking for overall?
I was talking to Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator. Obviously, they've got a great relationship from 3 years together in Green Bay. A couple of MVPs with Nathaniel there. But I'm just looking for, you know, I mean, it's still early. But, you know, obviously for the quarterback, you're looking for completions. You know, it doesn't matter what drill it is. You're just looking for completions right here. You're looking for some timing. You know, they've spent a lot of time this summer, you know, working on their timing, working on their routes, being in the right place at the right time. You're just looking for that kind of rhythm that you want to see from quarterbacks and receivers.
Hey, Baldy, how about this? I got something for you. Not only is Nathaniel Hackett on the field, of course, the Jets offensive coordinator, but his father is here today. Paul Hackett, the former Jets offensive coordinator as well.
And my former offense coordinator.
Yeah, so here you go.
Going back to Dallas, man.
All right, so that's one of the most under-the-radar stories of the offseason is Hackett being here because a lot of attention, rightfully so, goes to a former four-time NFL MVP and Aaron Rodgers. But him being reunited with Hackett, what do we have in store for us in watching this Jets offense and how Hackett's going to try to attack people?
Well, you can't understate just how important it is that they have a relationship. They understand play calling, concepts. When you're putting game plans together, the fact that they've spent a lot of time in the film room doing that in the past, there's a familiarity with what one calls, what one sees, what one might see at the line of scrimmage to change the play. Just the type of plays that are coming in, letting Aaron decide what's best at the line of scrimmage. He does so much at the line of scrimmage. And I think they see the game the same way. Now, the players all got to do that as well, too. So we've got to compress the time here to learn all that stuff. But I just think the familiarity that they have with each other and the rhythm that they created, and really just the way Aaron talks about Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, just talks about him like, this is a guy, there's a good teacher, he's good in the room, he's good in front of the team, and he's good game day. And I think that's really, really important.
So looking down the road, Baldy, when this offense, let's say a couple months from now, gets all the pieces in sync and it starts to fire on all cylinders, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, you want to be point scorers. You don't want to put points up. They didn't score enough points last year. But you want to see a consistency. You want to see a rhythm. You want to see a team that can drive the ball, move the ball, third downs, red zone. Like, you want to score touchdowns. You don't want to kick field goals. I mean, those kind of things that you just expect from a quarterback of this caliber. You want to see a team that can drive the ball. It doesn't matter what the schedule says or who the team is. Like, when you execute at a high level, it really doesn't matter who you go against.
One Jet who won't be practicing today is Rodgers' former teammate in Green Bay, Alan Lazard. We saw him walk on the practice field before. He's in street clothes, so we'll find out more about him later. I don't think that's anything major by just the way he came out here.
Yeah, no, it looked pretty minor, I would say.
Right.
And it did look like Will McDonald is back in pads after he was dealing with a contusion. You know, speaking of Lazard, Baldy, and guys like Randall Cobb who know Aaron Rodgers' hand signals, like we've seen a couple growing pains where maybe there's like a miscommunication between Rodgers and somebody like undrafted free agent Jason Brownlee, who had a great catch over Brandon Eccles on the sideline. What kind of a learning process is it? Just not even learning the offense, but learning each player and their tendencies, whether that's learning the quarterback or the quarterback learning the receivers?
I've been trying to learn it myself from Aaron, just watching and studying the nuances of his offense and how they actually signal, whether it's a smoke route, whether it's a change, whether 9 other players are doing something else that was called, and Aaron's saw something else with the receiver. I mean, and it doesn't happen right away. I mean, it took Devontae Adams a long time to learn it. It took him 3 years before he really got comfortable. It took Alan Lazard, who was cut by Jacksonville, came to Green Bay, as a practice squad player. Like, it took him a while to really learn it to where he was really comfortable, where last year he had his best year as a pro. So it doesn't happen right away, and I don't think we should expect it to all happen right away, whether it's Garrett or anybody else out here. I think it takes time, and you have to be in those positions where this is it. This is what I see. This is what we got to do. And so there might be some growing pains there, Ethan, with that, but I think that's to be expected, and that's one of the things why camp and the walkthroughs and the practices are just going to be so important.
I think Robert Saleh, or rightfully so, has articulated it that Rodgers is a coach on the field. Again, this is a system that he thrived in Green Bay. He's got that connection with Nathaniel Hackett, and now they got to go out and coach these guys on the field. And you see him being demonstrative with the receivers, where he wants them to be. Like, there were a couple times the other day where you're seeing the hand signals, and he's telling the guys as soon as they come back to the huddle, I wanted you to cut this way, or maybe stop here. That's ongoing. No, that's every play.
I saw it in spring in the OTAs. I saw it even when Aaron had that little calf situation. Like, he was still It's a tutorial. It's an ongoing tutorial. And honestly, in just talking to Nathaniel Hackett, there's really not enough time to install everything they want to install. I think this is going to be something that the season, as the season progresses, they're just going to get better and better. But you want to try to get as much done and accomplished in training camp. Training camp is really important. The fact that they got the Hall of Fame game, while some teams might not like it, I think it benefits the Jets. I think the extra week, and although they cut, the mini camp short because of it, I think getting the extra week in minicamp is going to help this team.
Yeah, it was huge for the Jets that Rodgers was here throughout the spring during OTAs, like you just talked about. What do you make of the running back position? Brees Hall working on his way back. He's ahead of schedule on the rehab. Jets very encouraged, but obviously early in camp, working to the side. Michael Carter taking the lion's share of reps from that one spot. You got Bam Knight, who's had a couple impressive runs out there. The Jets also drafted Israel Abanikanda. What do you make of the running back spot after Brees? And then how slow do the Jets have to take it with Brees throughout the summer, because you got to play the long game?
Well, you do. And so, with Brees, there can't be any rushing. But even when he is cleared and fully cleared to go contact, there is always that first year after ACL, whether it's a running back or any position, they've got to get comfortable. Yep. There's no time frame wherein you feel like I'm all the way back. It's because the fact is, I always say that the ACL is like a badge of honor that, okay, you've got one, now you're an NFL player. I had mine.
It's like Tommy John's surgery.
It's a little bit for a baseball player, but it's a new knee. It's a different knee. So what he had, coming out of Iowa State, what he showed last year in some of those explosive runs of his, you got to allow him to get his confidence all the way back. Yeah. And there'll come a time when he knows he's back, because it'll come back. He should come back stronger than he was before. And there shouldn't be a recurring or any sort of after effects. But he'll know when he can cut the way he's used to cutting and explode off the leg or come out of a pile. Only he'll know that and when it's right. And so it's something you got to be really careful and cautious about. So behind it, look, I want to see he get busy. I saw him at Pitt. This is a big guy that can run. He's a New Yorker. We've seen enough of Michael Carter to know that he can play in this league. But running backs in this league, not one guy can do it all. So you're going to have guys that are third down specialists. You're going to have guys that are short yardage specialists. You're trying to find out what the rotation is going to be. And so that's all yet to be decided, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Just listening to your past two answers, Baldy, and we'll end your segment on Training Camp Live presented by Honda on this. What does this offense look like, though, in the early parts of the season? Because that is the gauntlet of the Jets schedule. And if you're a Jets fan and you're watching this, you're thinking, the Jets, the window's now, right? This is why you made the move for Aaron Rodgers. Then we're talking about the growing pains of the offense. It takes time to learn it. And then you factor in Brees Hall, who's supposed to be a big part of this offense. He's on the physically unable to perform list. I think the expectation, you would imagine, is that he'd be at least cleared by week one. So what does this offense look like early, and how do the Jets find success early? I know we're looking down the road a couple months, but I do think it's worth mentioning.
Well, I think you have to always look at who are your playmakers. Okay, it starts with the quarterback. All right, and what Garrett Wilson, we all believe that Garrett, as good as he was last year, is only going to get better. Just because of his body control, work ethic, just his understanding of the game. You just feel like you've got two tight ends that have experience in this league, in Conklin and Uzama. You've got playmakers, all right? And so now you want your playmakers, all right, to win these games, to help convert third down, stay on the field. The big thing is staying on the field and then scoring points. And so you're going to have some frustrations in some early games probably, but there's going to come a time when you're like, this offense is clicking. It did last year. You saw it at the apex of the season last year against Buffalo. A really good team. It was their best win they've had in years. And they ran the ball down their throats at the end of the game to secure the win. That was – and it took to, whatever week that was, for that to happen. And so I don't think it's going to take to midseason, but – you want that ability, 4-minute drill, 2-minute drill at the end of the half, end of the game, come down the field and score. You want to be able to do those things.
Well, the good thing, too, for the Jets, you can lean on those Barracudas
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
the defensive side of the ball. While, hey, listen, the offense they're going to have some hiccups here and there in the early going. We know that.
Yeah.
But that defense was top 5 most statistical categories last year.
All except for one.
They want to the takeaways, and they want to take that next step this year.
That's the next step.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
the Dallas Cowboys over the last 2 years lead this league in takeaways by a pretty wide margin. And, you know, is Dallas's defense better than the Jets?
No.
I don't know. I mean,
I'd say no.
I don't
they got
know.
they got a superstar.
they've
but
got a superstar over there, but you know, I mean, they're figuring out a way to do it, and so that's really the challenge to me to this defense. I mean, as good as Sauce was, now it's time to start taking the ball away.
Yep.
All right, now it's time to start taking some chances. I think you can line up, and you're pretty good at every position. Now it's a question of getting that strip. That loose ball's got to be ours. You know, that quarterback arms gets hit, we got to come up with it.
Yep.
Like those type of the emphasis on taking the ball away. To me, leading the league in defense is good. I'd rather lead the league in takeaways. I'd rather be number 1 in takeaways and giving extra at-bats to Aaron Rodgers, and to that offense.
That is a great way to end your segment here on Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. Baldy, appreciate your time
Yeah,
here in
you
Florida.
got it.
Mark,
See you,
make
brother.
sure to stay
We'll do
cool.
a lot more.
Yeah,
Do a lot more,
we'll
man.
make sure to
You bet.
keep an eye on the Barracudas.
Yes.
But football is back. You can celebrate by watching all 32 teams, including your Jets, take the field for Training Camp Back Together weekend. NFL Network, NFL Plus have you covered with coverage on July 29th and 30th. Additional coverage on ABC and ESPN. Go to NFL.com/backtogetherweekend for ways to watch. Right now, taking a look at the safety group. And EA, I've been actually very impressed with the safeties, just in how active they've been in the early parts of camp. Guys like Ashton Davis punching the ball out, and Jordan Whitehead the other day had a great pass defense of a deep ball from Aaron Rodgers intended for Alan Lazard that he batted down.
Yeah, I think the next step for this defense is something that Baldy just talked about. This is takeaways, and that's probably one of those ones where Jordan probably goes back to the film room and they say, hey, let's make sure we bring that down next time. The Jets awfully excited about what he did in his first year after starting his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Robert Saleh made people know it that, hey, a couple of those PDs turn out to be interceptions last year, which the Jets anticipate they're going to be for Jordan Whitehead. Then people will be talking about how great of a season he had last year. The big question everybody rightfully so has is what's going to be next to Jordan Whitehead, because that's a changed landscape. LaMarcus Joyner remains a free agent. Obviously, the Jets have moved on there. They traded for Chuck Clark, who looked to be a great fit on and off the field. Unfortunately, he went down in OTAs. The Jets rebound by signing Adrian Amos, a former Packers starting safety, of course, and then Tony Adams begins his second year.
Yeah, the landscape, to your point, next to Jordan Whitehead is a little bit different. Caroline, what did you make of what Adrian Amos said when he spoke to the media the other day?
Well, he spoke to the media the other day, Ethan, and he said what he was looking for in year 9 of his career was a place where he could thrive and continue to grow his career. So that's why the Jets were such an attractive option for him. He also added he visited them, he liked the defense, and it's close to home because he grew up in Baltimore. When he said he isn't starting with the ones right off the bat, he said he knows it's the NFL, you have to earn everything, and he just arrived a few days ago, so he just has to have a little time to learn the playbook, and then once he will have it, he expects to start.
All right, well, that's a great way to end Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. The Jets back in pads here at One Jets Drive. We'll be back here in the saddle on our next live show.
I think Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. Right back here. Another show where we'll be showing you Aaron Rodgers in practice throughout, the course of 30 minutes or so?
And maybe a couple of Barracudas as well.
With one-on-one drills? Yeah, we'll see what the practice script has for that day. But that's all we have here on Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. Again, Thursday, July 27th, we'll be back. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay cool.
Thank you.